Hello, in this video I will show you how to solve the Pyraminx by using the one flip method. It is an advanced method and I assume that you already know how to solve the Pyraminx by using the beginner's method, and I assume that you already know the notations for this puzzle. First of all, I will scramble the Pyraminx actually, and show you how this method works. Alright, so the first step is solving a top layer by putting two edges in their correct position and the third edge in its correct position but flipped. So in order to do that, I'll put one edge here, and this is the top that I've solved. And you see, this edge in its correct position, this edge in its correct position, this edge in its correct position but flipped. Now we need to look at the top layer that we've solved, which is this one as I mentioned before, and see which color is missing. As far as I can see, here we have green, here we have blue, and here we have red, so the color that is missing is yellow. So for this step we need to orient all the yellow centers at the bottom layer and in the same time flip this edge in its right position. For doing that we will use algorithms. I will show you each one of them, and for this case the algorithm is like that, and as far as you can see all the yellow centers are now oriented at the bottom layer, and we solved the flipped edge at the same time. Before moving on to the next step, we need to rotate the top layer in order to match the colors, like that. So now at the third step we will look at the bottom face. In our case it's yellow, and we will use only one algorithm to solve all the remaining edges. There will be 2 or 3 edges to solve, and for this case the algorithm is this, and at the end the fourth step is solving the remaining corners. So now we will take each step from the beginning and I will explain you every detail that you need to know in order to use this method for solving the Pyraminx. I used this method and I already got 3 or 4 averages of 3 seconds in an official competition. I won't scramble these little corners anymore because I assume that you know how to solve them. For example, I usually solve 2 corners at the beginning of my solve, and at the end I solve the remaining corners. Now at the beginning, the first step, as I mentioned before, is choose a top layer and put 2 edges in their correct position and 1 edge in its correct position but flipped. Let's take this top because we already have a flipped edge here. We can put this edge here and the remaining edge, which is this one, here. And now we solved our top layer. This step is intuitive. We will never use algorithms for this step. You only need to use your imagination and your creativity in order to complete this step. I scramble the Pyraminx again and let's do the first step again. So I will solve again this top layer. So I'll put one piece here. This piece I'll put it here but flipped. And now I need to put one more edge in its correct position and with correct orientation. And it will be this one who needs to be here. And again I solve my top layer by putting 2 edges in their correct position and 1 edge in its correct position but flipped. Now I look at my top layer that I've already solved and see which color is missing. So I have green, yellow and blue, so the red color is missing. That means that at the next step I'll have to orient all the red centers at the bottom layer and in the same time solve this flipped edge. Now I will show you each case for this step. This is the first case when one center of the missing color from the top layer, in our case red, is here and the other 2 are already at the bottom, on the bottom layer. We hold the puzzle, the Pyraminx, like this, with the red center here and the flipped edge here, and the algorithm is R prime, U, R, L, R prime, L prime. And now, as you can see, we solved the flipped edge and put all the red centers on the bottom layer. The next case is the mirror of the previous case, where we have one center of the missing color from the top layer here, and the remaining two centers are already on the bottom. We hold the Pyraminx like this with the center here and the flipped edge here, and the algorithm is L, U prime, L prime, R prime, L, R. And then we rotate the top layer in order to match the colors. And again, all the red centers are on the bottom and we flipped the edge in its correct position. The next case is this one where we already have two red centers here in front of us and the remaining center is already oriented on the bottom layer. We hold the puzzle like this with the two centers here in front of us and the flipped edge here on the right, and the algorithm is R prime, D, R, L prime, R prime, L, R. The next case, we have one red center here in front of us on the right side, one red center here on the left side, and one red center already oriented on the bottom layer. We hold the Pyraminx like this with the flipped edge here, and the algorithm is R prime, U, L prime. So easy. Now we have the mirror case where we have one red center here on the left, one red center here on the right, and the remaining red center here already oriented on the bottom. We hold the Pyraminx like this with the flipped edge here, and the algorithm is L, U prime, R. And we need to correct the top layer. The next case is this one where we have one red center here, one red center here, the remaining red center already oriented on the bottom, and we need to hold the puzzle like this with the flipped edge here, and the algorithm is R prime, L prime, R prime, L, U, L prime, and correct the top layer. The next step is this one where we have one red center here, one red center here, and one red center here, and the flipped edge will be here. We hold the puzzle like this, and the algorithm is R prime, U prime, B, U prime, L prime, and correct the top layer. This is the next case, the mirror of the previous one, where we have one red center here, one red center here, and one red center here, and the flipped edge will be here. We need to hold the case like this, and the algorithm is L, U, B prime, U, R, and correct the top layer. This is the next case where we have one red center here, one red center here, and one red center here. We hold the case like this with the flipped edge here, and the algorithm is R prime, U prime, B prime, U prime, L prime. Moving on to the next case, we have one red center here, one red center here, and one red center here. We hold the case like this with the flipped edge here, and the algorithm is L, U, B, U, R, and rotate the top layer in its correct position. Moving on to the last case, as far as you can see, the top layer is already solved, the flipped edge is here, and all the red centers are already oriented on the bottom layer. In this case, we hold the flipped edge here on the left, bring this edge from the bottom layer here at the right, and do the algorithm that flip this edge and this edge from the beginner's method. In case you don't know the algorithm, it is L, R prime, L prime, R, U prime, R, U, R prime. And now we put the edge from the bottom layer back in its place. And as far as you can see, now the top layer is solved. We flip the edge in its correct position, and the red centers are still on the bottom. And now, after finishing this step, we have to put the bottom layer here in front of us and solve all the remaining edges. There are 5 cases, and we will go through each one of them. Okay, so this is the first case. We see that this edge needs to go here, this one needs to go here, and this one needs to go here, so clockwise, and we keep the red bar here on the left, and the algorithm is R prime, L, R, L prime. The mirror case where the edges needs to move counterclockwise. This edge needs to be here, this one here, and this one here. We can hold the puzzle like that with the red bar here on the right, and the algorithm is L, R prime, L prime, R. This is the next case where we don't have any more bars on the red face because it is already solved, but the edges are not in their correct positions. This one needs to be here, this one needs to be here, and this one needs to be here. We need to move them clockwise. We hold the puzzle like this, and the algorithm is L, R prime, L prime, R, Z, L, R prime, L prime, R. We move on to the next case, where again the red face is already solved, but we need to move this edge here, this one here, and this one here. So we need to move the edges counterclockwise. We hold the puzzle like this, and the algorithm is R prime, L, R, L prime, Z prime, R prime, L, R, L prime. Okay, so this is the last case where two edges are in their correct position, but they need to be flipped. We hold the puzzle like this, and the algorithm is L, R prime, L prime, R, U prime, R, U, R prime. Now at the end, I will do an example solve. So, first let's choose a top. Let's say this one, because we already have one edge in its correct position. We will bring the other edge here, and the last one, which we need to put it in its correct position, but flipped, like this. So we solve this top. Now I rotate the corners to get rid of them, and I see that on the top layer we have yellow, green, and red. So the missing color is blue, so the blue needs to be on the bottom layer. Is the case where two blue centers are already on the bottom, one is here. I bring the flipped edge here, do the algorithm, which is L, U prime, L prime, R prime, L, R, and rotate the top layer to match the colors, and now we go to the bottom layer and solve the case that we have, which is the one with the flipped edges. And the Pyraminx is solved by using the one flip method. Thank you for watching me, and if you have any questions, I will be waiting for them in the comment section. Bye bye!